In the heart of Prague, on a fateful spring day in 1618, three men found themselves sailing through the air, plummeting from a castle window towards what seemed like certain doom. This wasn't a circus act gone wrong or a daring escape attempt. It was, in fact, a pivotal moment in European history that would ignite the flames of the most devastating conflict the continent had ever seen. Welcome to the Second Defenestration of Prague, where religious tensions, political intrigue, and a 70-foot fall collided to change the course of history. The stage for this dramatic event was set long before that May morning. The Kingdom of Bohemia, a jewel in the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, had been a hotbed of religious dissent for over 2 centuries. Since the days of Jan Hus, a charismatic reformer who challenged the Catholic Church's authority in the early 15th century, Bohemia had been a haven for Protestant thought. The Hussites, followers of Hus's teachings, had fought and won their right to practice their faith freely, setting a precedent for religious tolerance in the region. Fast forward to the early 17th century, and Bohemia was a complex tapestry of religious beliefs. Catholics, Lutherans, Calvinists, and other Protestant sects coexisted in an uneasy peace. This delicate balance was maintained by the Letter of Majesty, a decree issued by Emperor Rudolf II in 1609. This document granted religious freedom to the nobility and citizens of Bohemia, allowing them to choose their faith without interference from the crown. However, the wheels of change were turning. Rudolf's successor, Matthias, was growing old and had no heir. Enter Ferdinand of Styria, a devout Catholic and zealous supporter of the Counter-Reformation. When Matthias named Ferdinand as his heir and had him crowned King of Bohemia in 1617, alarm bells rang throughout the Protestant community. Ferdinand's reputation preceded him. He had already suppressed Protestantism in his home territory of Styria with an iron fist. The Protestant nobles of Bohemia watched with growing unease as Ferdinand began to flex his muscles. Despite the guarantees of the Letter of Majesty, he started to restrict Protestant worship. The final straw came when he ordered the destruction of a Protestant church in Brumov and halted the construction of another in Hrab. These actions were seen as a direct violation of the religious freedoms promised by Rudolf II. Tensions reached a boiling point in May 1618. A group of Protestant nobles, led by Count Jindřich Matyáš Thurn, decided to confront Ferdinand's representatives directly. On May 23rd, they stormed Prague Castle, the seat of Bohemian government, with a clear purpose: to call the king's regents to account for their actions. The Protestant delegation burst into the Bohemian chancellery, where they found 4 Catholic officials: the 2 regents, Jaroslav Božita of Martinice and Vilém Slavata of Chlum, along with their secretary Philip Fabricius and Count Adam II von Sternberg. The nobles demanded to know if these men had played a role in persuading Ferdinand to violate the Letter of Majesty. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with accusations and denials. As tempers flared, Count Thurn seized the moment. In a theatrical gesture, he declared the regents guilty of violating the Letter of Majesty and, by extension, committing treason against the Bohemian people. The punishment? Death by defenestration, the time-honored Prague tradition of tossing one's enemies out of a window. In the chaos that ensued, Sternberg managed to slip away, but Martinice, Slavata, and Fabricius were not so fortunate. The Protestant nobles grabbed them and, one by one, hurled them from the 3rd-floor window of the chancellery. As they plummeted towards the ground, onlookers held their breath, certain they were witnessing an execution. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Against all odds, all 3 men survived the 70-foot fall. Their miraculous survival would become a point of contention and propaganda for years to come. Catholics claimed divine intervention had saved the men, with the Virgin Mary herself cushioning their fall. Protestants, on the other hand, attributed their survival to a less divine but equally effective cushion: a large pile of manure at the base of the castle walls. Regardless of how they survived, the Second Defenestration of Prague had set in motion events that would reshape Europe. The Protestant nobles, realizing the gravity of their actions, moved quickly to consolidate power. They established a provisional government, raised an army, and reached out to other Protestant powers for support. Ferdinand, now Holy Roman Emperor as well as King of Bohemia, was not about to let this rebellion go unchallenged. He began marshaling his forces, calling on his Catholic allies throughout Europe. The stage was set for a conflict that would engulf the continent for 3 decades. The 30 Years' War, as it came to be known, was a complex web of alliances, shifting loyalties, and devastating battles. What began as a localized rebellion in Bohemia soon drew in major powers from across Europe. The Protestant Union, led by Frederick V of the Palatinate, who accepted the Bohemian crown offered by the rebels, faced off against the Catholic League, headed by Ferdinand II and supported by Spain. As the conflict spread, it ceased to be solely about religion. Political ambitions, territorial disputes, and dynastic rivalries all played their part in fueling the war. France, despite being Catholic, sided with the Protestant powers to check the growing influence of the Habsburgs. Sweden, under the leadership of Gustav Adolf, intervened on the Protestant side, seeking to expand its influence in Northern Europe. The war raged across Central Europe, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Armies crisscrossed the land, pillaging villages, burning crops, and spreading disease. The civilian population bore the brunt of the suffering, with famine and plague often proving more deadly than the battles themselves. In Bohemia, the birthplace of the conflict, the consequences were particularly severe. After the Battle of White Mountain in 1620, where Ferdinand's forces decisively defeated the Bohemian rebels, a harsh program of re-Catholicization was implemented. Protestant nobles were executed or exiled, their lands confiscated. The Czech language and culture were suppressed in favor of German, marking the beginning of a period known as the Dark Age in Czech history. The war dragged on for 30 long years, reshaping the political and religious landscape of Europe. It finally came to an end with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, a series of treaties that established the principle of state sovereignty and religious tolerance. The Holy Roman Empire was weakened, while France emerged as the dominant power in Europe. The Second Defenestration of Prague, that moment of violent defiance in 1618, had unleashed forces far beyond what its perpetrators could have imagined. It had started as a local dispute over religious rights, but ended up redrawing the map of Europe and fundamentally altering the balance of power on the continent. As we reflect on this pivotal moment in history, we're reminded of the far-reaching consequences that can stem from a single act of rebellion. The Second Defenestration of Prague stands as a testament to the power of religious conviction, the volatility of political tensions, and the unpredictable nature of historical events. In the annals of history, the Second Defenestration of Prague remains, a spark that ignited a continental conflagration, a moment that marked the end of religious unity in Europe, a catalyst for political change that reshaped nations, a symbol of resistance against absolutist rule, a reminder of the fragility of peace in times of ideological conflict, a turning point that set Europe on a path to modernity, a lesson in the unintended consequences of political actions, a testament to the power of symbolic gestures in shaping history, a pivotal event that changed the course of European diplomacy, a harbinger of the religious tolerance that would eventually emerge from the ashes of war. The story of the Second Defenestration of Prague serves as a powerful reminder that history often turns on seemingly small moments, and that the actions of a few can have consequences that echo through centuries. It's a tale of defiance, survival, and the complex interplay of religion and politics. A story that continues to captivate and instruct us, even 4 centuries after those fateful men were tossed from a castle window into the annals of history.